If you are a long-term or short-term user of ArcGIS Pro software and you are required to make layouts either for electronic publication or on paper, and you need to put legends in, you've probably been frustrated with getting the legend to look the way you want. So there's a trick I'd like to share with you today that demonstrates how you can make modifications to that legend and format it to appear the way you expect it to appear. So I've got a project here that I've previously made. I don't even remember why I made it. It contains some earthquake information along with the plate boundaries. And I'm going to go ahead and create a layout for that by going up here to Insert and New Layout. Now I'm going to do something that gives me a fair amount of real estate, because it seems to me the bigger the layout, the bigger the issues we have with formatting. So I'm going to use this ANSI, which is a 22 by 34 landscape. So I've got a nice blank layout here, and I'm going to go ahead and insert here on my map frame. And I'm going to use just the default extent or scale, and I'm going to just put it here kind of on the left-hand side, leaving the right-hand side with some space to create that legend. Now I know this is going to annoy some people, so I'm just going to really quickly activate this frame and get this roughly zoomed in. By the way, if you're wondering what this is up here, this is a time scale for those, or time slider for the earthquakes. I didn't mean to identify. All right, let's get this roughly zoomed in and fill in the space as best as possible. And that's good enough for this purpose, because the purpose of this demonstration is not really to show you how to adjust that frame. So I'm going to go back to my layout here. All right, I'm on the frame that I want to create the legend for. I'm on the map over here for that. So I'm still on the Insert tab. I'm going to click on Legend, and I'm just going to go ahead and use this legend one right here. And it's not necessarily the default, but usually when we're building these things, that's the first one we pick. And then I'm going to drag and drop where that's supposed to be, like that. And a couple things you're going to notice right away. First of all, it's really small. The text is scaled to the map frame itself. So this is a big sheet of paper. So we've got some size issues, not just with the text, but the patches or the symbols along here as well. We also have some elements that we might not need. I usually don't include legend in there, mag and things like that. Now, historically, we've gone into the legend properties and we've made adjustments to individual elements. You can still do that up here. You can still right click and go into properties. You can work with it over here, but it is time consuming and it may not give you the results you're expecting. So the trick here is to turn this this legend into a graphic. So this is where just a word of caution exists, and that is, once you turn this into a graphic, the legend will not dynamically change with your map. So if you remove layers or you change the symbology, any adjustment that you make to your map is not going to be reflected in the graphic. You'll have to go back in, insert a new legend, and then create it as a graphic again. This tool also solves the triple red dot issue that sometimes crops in when it's trying to wrap words around. So if you're running into that issue, this also will fix that. So all I'm going to do is right click on this legend and convert to graphics. So again, that's just a right click on the legend itself and convert to graphics. Now make sure when you do this, if you're on Navigate, which you shouldn't be, that's not the default, that's not going to work. So you need to be on Select under Layout in order to even pick this particular element and then be able to right click on it and convert to graphics. Now, as soon as I do this, you'll notice the size of that rectangle changes down to just the size of it there. So even if I pull it this way, it makes some adjustment, but it's not very linear. Well, it is linear, but it doesn't make the text bigger. It doesn't fix the things that we need. So what we can do, and I'm just going to zoom into this just to demonstrate, and I'm using the middle, I guess the roller on my mouse to move this layout around. But now that I've created this as a graphic, each piece of these is now available for editing. So for example, if I want to get rid of legend, I can click on that and hit the delete key and it's gone. Events of magnitude, maybe I don't need that. I don't like a lot of extra stuff. And even this mag piece is not terribly helpful. So now I'm kind of left with the symbols and the descriptions of those symbols that I want. It may not be the size I want, but at least I'm down to this level of editing. So what I can do now is, first, let's adjust patches. Patches to me are something that's irritating to try to adjust using the previous methods of trying to change the width and the height. And you can get it somewhere where you want it to be, but this seems to be easier. So I can select each of these. I don't think you can select more than one element once. I've tried. You might have better success with that. But here I've selected this one patch for this line, and now up here appears this graphic button, and I can change the width to something more reasonable, and let's say 10 for that. Once I have adjusted that, I can also click on this and I can move that element around where I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and also change this one here. Again, going to graphic, changing the width to 10, and might as well do it for the trench symbol as well. Go to 10. So all those elements can be changed and you can shift it around. So if it's not centered with your text, you can move it around or vice versa. If I want to adjust the text, all I need to do is click on the individual element and come up here to the top where it says text. And I can make an adjustment here. I can change, for example, the font from Tahoma to Times New Roman. And then I can increase the size to say I'm on 10. Let's do 14. You notice it disappeared. That's not a big deal. And there's the dreaded 3 dots. All I need to do is just drag that out to make it bigger so it can accommodate that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same here for some amount of uniformity. Again, I've clicked on transform, go to text, change it to Times New Roman, and increase the font size to that, and then increase the size of the box it maintains. And I might as well do the same for trench. There's just 3 on there. It's not really a big deal. If you have a lot to do, obviously, this is going to take a little bit of time, but it is still, in my experience, faster than trying to adjust the properties in the dynamic legend. And you can see things aren't quite centered the way I want. One thing to note, you want these boxes fairly tight to your text. That's going to allow for more fine adjustment on where they are placed. If you have a really big text box, it's going to act like a snapping. And let me just give you an example here. If I make this trench box really big and I try to make a shift with it, you can see it's fairly coarse in where I'm allowed to put it. Especially when I get up to that patch, you can see it's jumping quite coarsely. So I'm going to move this to kind of hug that a little bit better, come tight to that. And then I have a little bit more adjustment. Well, that didn't seem to make a huge difference, but you do get a little bit more adjustment, it seems like, in that aspect. And then I can move these things around as needed. You're going to find similar difficulties, but it is better than trying to make adjustments to the patches itself using properties. And yeah, that's it's being a little bit of a nightmare there. I'm going to just undo that to make it nice and even. So still not perfect, but better than before. So again, all these things are adjustable and movable, changeable. You can add text. So if I want this to say transform boundary, And it's not appearing because my box isn't big enough, and I probably spelled it wrong, but let's see. I did, but no big deal. I can make a quick edit there, make it bigger, and then that makes a little bit more sense. So I hope that this was useful, because this was kind of earth-shattering for me. It's been a problem I've had since the very first iteration of ArcGIS Pro was published, and I've just fought with it until this was discovered. So I hope you found this useful as well. I hope it's eliminated some frustration you've had with formatting your legends, and good luck.